In this episode, we're going back to revisit the late 80s where something exciting happened. That something was the awesome boy band New Kids on the Block and how they entranced many an intriguing daydream during that era for many, many years, all the way up to present day. Do you think you got it? Got enough of what it takes to be hanging tough? Join Cooper Lee and myself as we revisit fun nostalgia step by step on our Orchard Trek Retro this week. Are you down?
Can we take it back to 95? Before we had this drama in our lives, just staring at the screen every day and night. I miss the rush of living in real life. Go get your DeLorean. Go get your DeLorean.
Oh, this week's episode is going to be super duper awesome nostalgic and is dedicated to the throngs of screaming, adoring fans from that era who literally ate, slept, and breathed anything, absolutely any and everything New Kids on the Block.
Yes, Cooper. Oh my goodness. New Kids on the Block was legendary back in the late 80s.
Yes.
Like when their music hit the airwaves, they lit the world up. We just couldn't get enough of the guys, could we?
No.
Yeah, they were such an integral part of nostalgic pop culture back then. The New Kids on the Block were totally vibe, yo.
So much agreed, Kennard. And it was our good pleasure to hear their smooth, soulful, melodic voices spill out abundantly over the airwaves.
Oh, yeah.
And whenever they did so, they made many a young heart go boom, boom, boom effortlessly. uh, uh, it's warm nostalgia, isn't it?
There's nothing really better, Coop. Listeners, we are shameless Gen Xer super fans of so much from the iconic 80s. I don't know, because we had a front row seat perspective. We saw that awesome decade being full of interesting and wonderful fads, trends, and crazes gone far too soon. So it's nice that each week we handpick and deep dive into the fascinating gems that impacted us with all those memorable feel goods we experienced then.
Yeah, to how those very things shaped the now current view of the known world.
Yes.
So I'm looking forward to discussing our retro perspective on New Kids on the Block this week.
Mm-hmm.
If they couldn't already tell, right? News flash. So, goodness, saying retro in connection with the New Kids on the Block seems bizarre.
It actually does.
And it really didn't feel like it was that long ago. We're getting older, Kennard. How heartbreaking.
Yeah, okay. Thanks, Buzzkill.
Just stating our facts, right?
Yeah, we need some sunshine. Now we're a little depressed.
Oh,
That's all we need. More problems.
I know.
No, true that, Coop. But taking our infamous Orchard Trek retros usually softens the blow. And it calms our anxiety so much and invigorates our being as we embark on our fond nostalgia. Happily, this week is no different. I don't know. It's just the perfect Carmelicious RX.
Much agreed. Woo, that was close.
Yes, it was close.
Well, now that we got that ironed out, let's get on to it, huh?
Yeah, buddy. So the New Kids on the Block was definitely a most recognizable fixture on the pop cultured 80s radio airwaves, musical countdowns, and Billboard charts. I feel they and their music were memorable in ways that really effortlessly caused them to stand out in a phenomenal way among the competition and their contemporaries during that memorable era.
And as you generally say, Kennard, facts. So New Kids on the Block had it all, really. They were handsome, talented in both vocals and dance.
Yeah.
But more importantly, to that formula they had set in place, what triggered the spark that ignited their massive appeal to their throngs of adoring fans was the simple fact that the extreme passion they had about the music was evident. They desired to share with the world, which was undeniable indeed.
And we thank them for that too.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
These were truly some special memories and special times we got to experience our coming of age in. Wouldn't trade it for anything. Those were some great, awesome times, Coop. And
Yes,
just about everything you could get into and be a part of was crazy cool.
it really was.
Yeah.
But the New Kids on the Block wasn't always what was vividly painted into our retro memories. They had to really climb that success ladder from where the guys came from humble beginnings.
Uh huh.
And it is indeed these types of warm tales of rags to riches success stories that fascinate and drew you in. And no doubt most of us can relate, which endears us to the New Kids on the Block even more. Much, much more.
I agree. It's so nice to see true grit, raw determination turn into wonderful, caramelicious stories of success. So, the New Kids on the Block consisted of the handsome, but more importantly, extremely talented five, that of Danny Wood, Donnie Wahlberg, Joey McIntyre, and brothers Jordan and Jonathan Knight. Boy, could these guys sing and dance or what?
They really could. But the five fabulous members of what became, the New Kids on the Block went through that ebb and flow as they were forming in the early years.
Uh huh.
And guess who was actually the first one to be discovered in the group? Well, that would be Mr. Donnie Wahlberg, along with yet another famous Wahlberg.
Okay.
Now, whoever could that be? Fun fact, Donnie's younger brother, Mark Wahlberg, joined up in 1984, but his involvement therein was short lived. It is said that Mark, according to his brother, either wanted to go out and steal cars with his friends or preferred to play basketball. Geez, what an utter shock, right?
Way to go, brother. Throwing baby brother under the bus.
He had different priorities, apparently.
Obviously.
So, after all, Mark was probably about 13 or 14 years old at the time, and the Wahlbergs could hold their own in the hood. Come on, are you down?
Yeah, I'm totally down, Coop. What are you talking about? Just kidding. But speaking of the hood, Mark officially left New Kids on the Block in 1985, where he went on to do his own thing solo and dabbled in modeling.
Calvin Klein undies. We're looking at you.
We sure are. No. Then he crossed over solo as rap artist Marky Mark of Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch.
Good vibrations, baby.
Wow, that's a blast from the past. Yep. Good vibrations as he continued to walk on the wild side, all the way to become, as we currently now know him, as the iconic A-list actor in Hollywood. Yeah, so now he's just Mark Wahlberg.
Proper.
Yeah, and my hubby hubs, he likes his acting. He's watched a lot of his movies. He's like, yeah, he's a pretty cool guy.
Yeah, my husband too. He feels the same way. He likes it.
Oh, well, obviously, Marky Mark, made the proper decision.
Right?
So talk about some major success. That's a long way from hanging out with his homies boosting cars.
Maybe he was gunning for the role and Gone in 60 Seconds. Who knows?
Hashtag goals.
That is totally crazy. And we enjoy a lot of his projects too, right?
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
So a youthful but dicey decision turned out fairly well for Mark Wahlberg in the long run. But back to Big Brother Donnie, this didn't deter him. He was still in hot recruit mode. So, also in 1985, Donnie enlisted good friend Jamie Kelly, and soon after, he talked his friend Jordan Knight into joining after demonstrating to the higher ups his singing and dancing talents.
Uh-huh.
And this high for life and dancing was highly contagious for Jordan's older brother, Jonathan Knight, who too wanted to have a crack at it. So he became a member as well. But we're not remotely done yet. Oh
Oh no is right.
no.
Donnie was still at it when he got another one of his homies recruited, Danny Wood, who easily earned his spot in the group after showing off some of his breakdancing skills. This is the era we're talking about, folks. This is great.
Yes, like that was probably the shoe in because he could do that. Yeah.
I know, right? Soon after Mark left the group, though, fellow member Jamie Kelly, too, exited the group stage left, which may have been due to the lack of talent or lack of commitment. So now, because of that, our group consists of four, and the creative execs felt that a fifth member was needed to complete what they had going. So, what's next, Coop?
Well, we'll indeed get to that here momentarily.
Okay.
But we keep making mention of the higher ups or the creative execs. Who exactly are we talking about?
Fortunately, from the beginning, the guys were willing to be guided by an experienced music producer and to get ready to work hard on their music. This endeavor is encouraged and launched from musical executive producer Maury Starr. Now, the New Kids on the Block's experience closely mirrors another familiar boy band from the 80s, that of New Edition.
I remember enjoying New Edition as well.
Yeah.
And their songs were staple anthems among our girl squad.
They sure were. It was Maury Starr who helped launch the five black teens to stardom.
But soon enough, both New Edition and Maurice Starr decided to part ways. Determined not to let this setback define him, he wanted to still achieve and capitalize on that success when the brilliant idea hit him to create a white counterpart act.
Okay.
He says, and I quote, "If New Edition was as big as they were, I could imagine what would happen if white kids were doing the same thing." End quote. So this is when Starr and his business partner, Mary Alford, started their intensive search throughout Boston neighborhoods to find white boys who were, let's say, down and who possessed some street talent.
And that's cool setup because, like, even being able to explain what they were after and their vision, like, I don't know if they'd even really be able to say that kind of stuff today. Like, people make a big deal out of everything.
It's like he could have come in quietly and just knew what he was searching for, but he makes the statement. But I guess if you're gonna run auditions and stuff like that, you gotta kind of lay out your criteria. But
yeah. Yeah. I mean, we lived through this era. It didn't seem to be a problem then, but today, everything's tongue in cheek, Ugh. So, after none of the auditions set up by the four remaining members worked out, Starr again turned it to his business partner, Mary Alford, to find a kid who could sing and dance. They discovered an uber talented 12-year-old who lived in the neighborhood of Jamaica Plain, who had often performed at his local community theater. His name is Joey McIntyre, who initially struggled to fit in with the group.
Yeah, even though he aced his audition with flying colors, he was hesitant to join the band, stating, and I quote, "I thought Dorchester was too far away. The others were all buddies, and I didn't want to do it." End quote.
Oh.
He's like, this is what it was. So, fun fact, although he had serious reservations on what lay ahead in this potential heavy commitment, Joey McIntyre eventually signed on due to the fact that he was a huge fan of, get this, New Edition.
Oh, now that's quite the twist, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's cool. Well, it was still choppy waters for our newest member, and after a while, he again came to regret his decision. Now, the other members of the New Kids on the Block were all older than he, that they all had close prior kinship with each other, and for a long time, he felt more like the fifth wheel than the fifth valued member. Yeah, so having had enough, he decided he'd leave the group again until his new kid comrade phoned him up and convinced him to stay with him by saying, "We want you to shine. You can make us great again." End quote. That was from Donnie.
Aha.
So then Joey stays. Yay!
Yay! We're so glad that he did.
Oh, yeah.
So we're still calling our now formed boy band New Kids on the Block. But as many a fan knows, this is not what they were known as during this pivotal time. Fun fact. Originally, the group was called Nanook, as per Nikki Vanoy, author of the group's official biography, wrote in 2012 that the name Nanook is meaningless. Tell us how you really feel. Although a 1989 article by Rolling Stone suggested a possible connection to Nanook of the North.
Okay.
Columbia demanded Starr change the name of the group. Subsequently, they settled on New Kids on the Block after a rap song that Donnie Wahlberg had written and arranged for their first album.
Okay.
The group was signed to Columbia's Black Music Division and originally marketed to Black audiences.
Very interesting, Coop. It's always neat to deep dive into some of the early origins of well known groups, well, retro groups and bands from back then. Now, we spoke of how New Kids on the Block.
Don't you mean Nanook?
You're rotten, Coop. Yes, that name is meaningless. But we spoke on how they're pretty much all down, and that was by design in order to draw in their core target audience young, down, and, shall I say it, black. The groups, we'll say caramel. Okay, just whatever. The group's personal history and getting familiar with other cultures and backgrounds and such is pretty fascinating if you have the time to really dive into their history. But the guys came up together at a time when Boston schools were busing kids out of Dorchester to other urban sections of the city. This was in the 80s too, so this was part of an effort to desegregate Boston schools.
Yeah, so it's amazing that it was in the 80s, right?
A little curious, I know.
So that's when Donnie Wahlberg and Danny Wood got to be tight as friends.
Okay.
The outside world was struggling to slowly integrate as one more united community, but the efforts made surrounding busing routines as well as school itself was considered by band member Danny Wood as amazing. He said, outside of school, it was a very controversial time. We were surrounded by chaos, but in school, it was amazing. We didn't feel all that. Everyone was open to being around everyone else. End quote.
Nice.
Yes. So busing not only introduced the boys to new music and other parts of life, as we now see, it allowed them to later be comfortable traveling to a largely black neighborhood in order to work with Maurice Starr.
Oh, see, now I love that because that's kind of what we remember when we were coming up at this time. Like, even like with our girl squad, where we've come from, like it just didn't matter.
Yeah.
We were friends, we were family. You got along with everybody. Um, and we're sure we're not naive. I mean, there's people that probably had trouble with that. I mean, obviously,
Yeah.
we're talking about what was going on in the new kids' life at that time when they were school age.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I mean, like, that's the spice of life, getting to be around other cultures and backgrounds and making friends and being around each other. Like, that is just the bee's knees.
Yeah. Yeah. It helps you grow for sure.
Yeah. So it's just sad that the world is kind of tipping the scale the other way where they're going back to being divisive about differences
Mm.
and making a big deal of that. But you know what? That's the world today. It is what it is.
Yeah.
If you have your comrades and you guys are all different spices in the spice rack, value that, cherish that, because that's a cool thing. But back on topic. With that final lineup in place, Star rehearsed the boys after school and on the weekends. and eventually secured the group a recording contract at Columbia Records.
Ooh.
Yeah, they're coming up. In April of 1986, Columbia Records released the group's self-titled debut album, New Kids on the Block.
Yay!
Yes, the album, almost exclusively written and produced by Maurice Starr, featured mid-80s bubblegum pop material. We remember this, Coop.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Yeah. So the first single was Be My Girl, received minor airplay around the group's native Boston, but failed to capture nationwide attention. The album's second single, Stop It Girl, fared even worse. Oops. So the New Kids on the Block went on tour around the New England states, singing wherever Starr could book them, in bars, school dances, and clubs. Nevertheless, Maurice Starr remained diligent and persuaded the label to allow the group to record a second album.
You had this album on cassette tape, didn't you, Kennard?
I did.
I remember wearing that thing out every opportunity we got. It's been on outings with our girl squad. And we mentioned a couple songs already from their debut album. But which songs on this particular album was your favorite?
Oh goodness. Oh my God. That was a good album, and I definitely had a few on there that I liked.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, didn't I blow your mind? Didn't I blow your mind?
Yes, I totally remember that one.
That one was cool beans. Popsicle was definitely bubblegummy and super duper poppy.
Yes.
Are You Down? That was cool. And Want to Be Loved by You.
Yes.
Yeah. So how about you, Coop?
I would have to say Popsicle was definitely one of my favorites. And Are You Down was totally cool. But I like the title track of the album, New Kids on the Block. I did. I like that one.
Awesome. Oh, Coop, that is so cool and so nostalgic indeed.
Yes.
Like you said, their debut album was a good one.
Agreed, Kennage. You know, it kept our girl squad wistful, busy, and happy all of the time.
It did.
At the same time. And even though there were plenty of fans that were drawn to the first album, you know, hands raised.
Yes,
who
double
were those?
raised.
Okay. And it still didn't do what Maurice Starr exactly wanted. And after the failure of the first album, Starr had the group back in the studio for most of 1987 and 1988, recording their second album. Dissatisfied with the excessively bubblegum sound of their first album, the group wanted to have more input on their look, direction, and song material. You know, that's to be expected. They're like, we're the talent, you know, we don't want to just be puppets, you know, we kind of want to bring ourselves into this.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, fun fact, as a result, Donnie Wahlberg, Danny Wood, and Jordan Knight received associate producer credit on the final product.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. Now that the guys are on track with their pop careers, getting their name out there, and success is gaining momentum, the next endeavor for the New Kids on the Block was launching their second album in 1988, Hangin Tough.
Oh, Hangin Tough was awesome.
It was.
Yeah, this was released to modest reception in September. The album's first single was Please Don't Go Girl. This was a ballad released in the spring of 1988. Now, I'll try not to go too long on this, but I do remember hearing that on the radio for the first time, and it was just captivating.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he could sing because it was Joey.
Yeah.
But he sounded like Michael Jackson because it's like, okay, this is an 88. This is not Michael Jackson anymore. Like he's grown. He's doing his thing. He's his past Thriller days.
Yeah.
Heck, I think it's even after Bad. So, I mean, he's well established. That wasn't him.
Yeah.
So I was like, who is this? You know, but it sounded so much like the Jackson 5.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, this is one of my favorite songs on this album because that was one of the first ones I heard. So yeah, I won't go long on it, but
it's okay.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
We're at least in their episode, so you can talk about it as much as you want.
Yes, we're totally fan apples. Now that was a true and bona fide memory from when we first heard this song. You know, but according to our research and the logistics behind the song first coming out, this was far different than our memories, apparently.
Mhm.
So it is said that, get this, failure seemed imminent a second time when the song became yet another that went unnoticed by the listening public. And Columbia Records made plans to drop the New Kids from the label.
Oh no.
Yeah. But at the 11th hour, however, a pop radio station in Florida began playing the song. The scoring listener approval, it soon became the most requested song on their playlist.
Oh.
Yeah, Please Don't Go Girl is a great song, so it's not hard to understand its draw and appeal going forward.
I agree, Kennard. It's definitely connected to some of our personal nostalgia of such a pivotal time while we were coming up back in the late 80s.
Word.
So, well, in perfect corporate
Uh
fashion,
huh.
when Columbia caught wind of the positive response, they decided to keep the group on its roster and put more effort into promoting the single. And Columbia decided to reshoot a music video for Please Don't Go Girl, hiring director Doug Nickel, and sent the video to thousands of radio stations across the country to show the group's visual appeal.
Mm-hmm.
And national attention soon followed, and Please Don't Go Girl eventually climbed to number 10 on the Billboard Hot 100 singles chart, becoming the group's first official hit.
I remember that video.
Yeah.
Yeah, it totally captured like the essence of what the like play and fun on the East Coast was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was a good video.
Yes.
So this is what we remember. But what did you like about like their visual concept of things, their videos? What did you like most about it? Their dancing, the what did you like most about them?
I would definitely have to say, being a young girl back then, I wasn't a fan of them having girls in the video. I'll say that first.
You and like 4 billion others.
Yeah, it's like they don't need to be in there. You know who you're singing to? Me, right? No, just kidding. Um, but I did like the way they did sing and dance. The dancing was really they had something, right? Like
Yeah, yeah.
they weren't like robots, and it wasn't like anyone in particular was carrying the other. Like they were trying to make sure somebody else wasn't seen, so they have someone else really dancing it out over here while this one was kind of in the background. Like they all could dance,
Uh-huh.
so that was cool.
It was cool.
Like what you hear so far? Make sure you never miss a show by clicking the subscribe button now. This podcast is made possible by listeners like you. Thank you for your support. Now, back to the show.
Yo, what you got in that bag? Many used to have to work for that. Wait for me, gotta dial up. Can't call my landline cause it's all tied up. Just bike over there. Oh.
So here's a funny little story. We've already established we are doing an episode on New Kids on the Block, and definitely fans back then, right?
Oh yeah.
So I saved up some little monies, and I think I mowed a couple lawns. Wasn't big on babysitting, so I mowed a couple lawns, and I saved my money for that because I wanted to get. They had promo items, and they had videos you could get. There was a longer video that you could purchase, VHS tape, and they had a shorter one, which was more in my price range. So I got the shorter one that had 4 songs on it.
Okay.
And it was awesome. It's only 30 minutes long, so there's enough. They have a little bit of backstory. They show the guys on the road and things like that, which was so awesome because you're like, oh, there they are in real life, but not, It's like they're interacting. They're doing stuff and not just in videos. They're talking.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, this is so exciting. So anyway, bought this. It was treasured. It was a do not touch to little bro. And apparently at some point I made him mad about something. I don't even remember what my offense was. But he found my VHS tape, and he subsequently removed their faces, scratched off their faces, and drew in his own faces for them.
Oh yeah, he was hot.
He was hot. And obviously I was too after that. I'm like, how dare you touch my possession?
You're like, what'd you do?
What did you do? So at least he didn't mess up the tape inside because that would have been another story. That would have been another, yeah. So, but he did mess up the front of my cover, which I was not happy about at all.
Oh yeah, little bro would have had a eulogy.
Right. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, those are some nutty times.
They were,
Back on track.
yes.
Good story. But it was a most innocent and fit that time while we were coming up as well, you know. So like there's I mean, we could go on forever about New Kids. I mean, we can go on forever about everything, but New Kids, yes.
Right.
But in the meantime, the group began making national televised appearances on such music programs such as Showtime at the Apollo and Soul Train.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Soul Train's the bomb too. We have a whole episode on that, so check that out.
Yeah.
But producer Maurice Starr then held auditions to secure a band of musicians suitable for touring with the New Kids on the Block. Yeah, buddy, things are starting to heat up.
Yes. It's starting to get white hot, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Now, this I'm about to share with our listeners, I personally remember well. So, fun fact, the New Kids on the Block later landed a spot as an opening act for fellow teen pop act Tiffany on the US leg of her concert tour. And sales of Hanging Tough steadily increased as the group's national attention slowly rose. At year's end, the album's second single, You Got It, The Right Stuff, was released. The song was given a huge boost when MTV took notice of the group and began playing the video in regular rotation, including an appearance on Club MTV.
Oh,
So by early 1989, it cracked the top 5.
wow. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So, you know, the New Kids hit pay dirt with their next single, I'll Be Loving You Forever, which reached #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 singles chart in June. The guys had been scheduled to open for Tiffany once again on a second tour, but their sudden popularity caused a reversal.
Oh my goodness.
We remember this.
Yes.
And she ended up opening for them.
Yeah.
So, but they still, you know, had the two acts technically billed as co-headliners. So I guess that'll help soften the blow.
A little bit, maybe.
Yeah, but remember, Coop, we actually went to their concert at our state fair back in, was it 88 or 89?
Oh, that's a good one. I'm not 100%. Probably 89.
I think so too. Yeah, yeah, because it was at our state fair and we were with our girl squad.
Yes.
And one of the guys that hung out with us,
Who coincidentally reminded us of Donnie.
he did look like Donnie Wahlberg.
He did.
Hey, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I remember it rained really hard that day, and it just, I mean, it was a sloppy, muddy mess everywhere. People didn't care. Like
Yeah.
it was hooked up, like it was nuts.
It was amazing, wasn't it?
It was. That's a good memory.
And do you remember that they had memorabilia, of course,
Oh yeah,
and it was just like a snapshot of the boys, but they were blown up a little bit.
yeah,
Oh, it was like, yes, spending money on that, taking that home
yes.
so you can
Their
gaze into their eyes.
their faces were beautiful.
So, with all of that we've just talked about, it's probably not much of a stretch to imagine just how big of a chessy grin old Maurice Starr had forming on his face when things were heating up for the New Kids on the Block.
I know, right?
Yeah. So, more top 5 singles from Hangin Tough followed into the summer and fall, including the title track and Cover Girl.
Mm-hmm.
Starr wasn't the only one sporting the chessy grin. Fun fact. Columbia Records also released the single Didn't I? Blow Your Mind This Time, a cover of the Delphonics' classic hit from the
Mhm.
group's previously overlooked debut album. And the song went number 8 on the Billboard Hot 100 singles on the strength of the group's popularity and effectively jump started the sales of the album as well.
Cha-ching!
Yes, let that cash register ring. So by the end of 1989, Hanging Tough had climbed to number 1 on the Billboard 200 albums chart and had gone 8 times platinum.
Wow.
Yeah. They subsequently became the first teen act to garner 5 top 10 hits from a single album. Well done, guys. It's quite an understatement that they really made recent musical pop culture history with their second album, Hangin' Tough.
I think that's amazing because we had said earlier that Columbia Records wanted to drop them.
Yeah,
We could do a whole topic on that. It gets on my nerves how some of these top execs and stuff, they want cookie cutter textbook success,
right, right.
but they never want to take a gamble on it. It's like these guys are talented and they had it then.
Yeah, yeah.
Now they're like, oh, they're skipping down the yellow brick road too because they're the the coins roll. It's like y'all didn't think about that back when they were first starting. You need to take the risk.
Yeah, and then they're like, "Hey, old buddy, old pal," like,
Oh,
then you'd almost be like, "Well, I don't trust you," right? I mean,
yeah.
yeah. I don't know. How does this build good relationships when they're ready
Ugh.
to jump ship when they think it's sinking? Yeah,
Totally, and they
not
they've
cool.
got the money to do it, the vacillate, so whatever.
Yes, and while we're talking, I I'm just so happy that here we're able to share some of our own personal, you know, story from when they were coming up. Like
Yeah,
they weren't famous. Like some of
yeah,
these people we talk about, they were already famous.
yeah.
We were there at the ground level. Maybe
Oh
not the
yeah,
very, very beginning, but we were there when they switched reversal roles, on the people who were performing at the fair. So I mean, that's cool.
yes,
So
yes,
it's like we feel like we really grew up with them. That's kind of
yes. That's a very good point, Coop. And that you can't make that kind of stuff up. That's as real and raw as it can get.
exactly.
But just like during that nostalgic era, there was Batmania everywhere. Understandably,
Oh boy.
yes, yes. Same was true for the New Kids on the Block.
Yes.
I mean, Coop, the New Kids were everywhere. You just said that.
Mm-hmm.
So there was posters, teen magazines, shirts, novelty items, school supplies, buttons, you name it.
Yes.
It was New Kids Mania.
It was.
And Jordan Knight was a mania within a mania. Now again, here's that from that front row seat perspective. If my memory serves me correctly, I think Jordan was an avid Batman fan too.
He was.
Okay. Because we saw and had pictures of him wearing and sporting the black bat shirt with the infamous yellow Keaton bat logo.
Yes. Uh-huh.
So my man, he knew what was up on those things. That was all things cool, huh, Coop?
Yes.
Man, what an awesome time to reflect on. It was smashing good back then.
Yeah, that video, that VHS tape I was talking about, he had that shirt on in there.
Oh, maybe that's where it's coming from, my memory.
Yeah, so I mean, yeah, he was huge. I think he might have even had one of his posters, one of his big posters. I think he was wearing the Batman logo shirt.
Man, can we go back to this time? This is amazing.
I know. So cool. But talk about a rabbit hole.
Yes.
We can so easily get lost in reminiscing on the New Kids on the Block.
Yes.
So the late summer, fall of 1989 caused the New Kids to see a major career explosion that we're so privileged to have personally lived through and experienced. But other notable projects were taken on by the guys while their fame and popularity was riding high. I guess that's a good time to start, seeing what else you can get into.
Yes.
And during that pivotal time, their top 10 charting holiday album, Merry Merry Christmas, was released in the fall, spawning another top 10 hit. This one's for the children and going double platinum in the US. The proceeds were donated to United Cerebral Palsy, the new kids' favorite charitable cause.
So Hanging Tough would go on to spend 132 weeks on the chart, and in January of 1990, the album won 2 American Music Awards for Best Pop Rock Album and Best Pop Rock Group.
Mm.
So that's another 80s reference. The American Music Awards, the best.
They were
Absolute best.
so enjoyable.
It was. But with the success of Didn't I Blow Your Mind, Cover Girl, and This One's for the Children, the group pulled off a rare feat of having 3 singles on the Billboard Hot 100 at the same time.
Mm,
But each of these were from a different album. And
bananas.
this was, oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, just bananas.
Yes, it was. Now, this was how supercharged their star power was at the time.
Now, this next bit of information I truly remember well. So, you know, the album, the VHS that I was going to obviously reference several times because, you know, it was my prized possession at the time.
It was.
So, this was Columbia Music Video, and it was released, you know, as a home video product, and it was Hanging Tough. And it was documentary about the band, and it was directed by Doug Nickel and produced by Brian Johnson. And like I said, it included 4 of their big hits at the time. And it did have a lot of live concert recordings that you could see from 1989 tour.
That's right. Oh, yeah.
And, you know, I was one of them. It achieved massive sales and earned them a Grammy Award for Best Long Form Music Video nomination. I wonder if that was like a newer thing to be nominated for, a newer award, because you know how often did they did that?
Right.
I mean, MTV just got started just a few years ago before that, so.
Could have been, huh?
Yeah. And, you know, it was one of the biggest selling music videos of all time. So, fun fact, did you know that the Commonwealth of Massachusetts declared April 24th, 1989, New Kids on the Block Day?
Uh-oh. It sounds like that's coming up here real soon.
Yes.
Well, they'd better have their festivity plans for it in order. Well, we're really at the end of the key part of the New Kids on the Block career and story highlights of the rise of stardom from merely starting out from humble beginnings.
Mm-hmm.
We will make quick mention of their next album, which did well, but Hanging Tough was their golden egg, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
So I know our cousin and honorary member of our girl squad was a diehard New Kids on the Block fan. She had fire behind her after the release of this next album.
So we've now crossed over into a new decade. By early 1990, the New Kids on the Block had become one of the most popular acts here in the States. That May, they followed up Hanging Tough with Step by Step, for which just over half of the songs were co-written, produced by the members themselves. The first single, the title track, hit number 1 on the Hot 100 singles chart and became their biggest selling single. It was followed up with their 9th consecutive top 10 single, Tonight.
Okay.
So at the turn of the decade, the New Kids on the Block were the talk of the world.
That's right. Yeah. And the guys were achieving significant international success.
Mm-hmm.
Their cut, Let's Try It Again, hit number 8 on the UK singles chart, while Baby I Believe in You went to number 1 in Japan.
Mm.
The album was eventually certified triple platinum, selling close to 20 million copies worldwide. Now, that's quite an achievement. So, by the late 90s, David Dyson assumed the role of music director.
Which no doubt all of this massive success kept the guys busy.
Mm-hmm.
The group performed an estimated 200 concerts a year.
Oh my goodness.
Man, and with an extravagant worldwide concert tour that summer called the Magic Summer Tour, it was sponsored by Coke.
Okay.
And the tour ultimately grossed 74 million, 133 million adjusted for inflation.
Oh, thanks for putting that in there, Coop. That's crazy.
You're welcome. Making them the top grossing touring act in the country at the time, and one of the highest grossing concert tours of the decade,
Hmm.
which overall attendance of 3.2 million people. It is rumored that their 1990 pay-per-view special broke records at the time.
Man.
Yeah. We also briefly touched on this bit of fact a minute ago, but during this time, NKOTB licensed merchandise flooded the market, including lunchboxes, buttons, t-shirts, comic books, and dolls. Fun fact, did you know that they even inspired a Saturday morning cartoon, which was developed by the Pangea Corporation and animated by Deke Entertainment? In 1991, sales of the group's merchandise was estimated at 400 million US.
Oh, that is crazy.
Yes.
Man, I mean, they really cashed in on their fame with huge licensing deals for their
Oh, yeah.
namesake branded merchandise.
Yeah.
Talk about going from proverbial rags to riches. Yeah.
Mm.
So the New Kids on the Block was a phenomenal success. I mean, there is no argument in that.
No.
So they had found their niche. Who would make up their devoted fan base? But unfortunately, at the turn of the decade, the musical landscape changed and grunge took over, which slowly dimmed the light of the New Kids on the Block.
But ever the clever, fast thinking marketers, the New Kids on the Block rebranded themselves in acronyms as NKOTB and launched a fresh R&B-esque album entitled Face the Music in 1994. But soon after, the group split up after that same year. Oh my goodness, my kitties. I'm so sorry about that. Which helped influence Ignite the path for other future boy bands were enjoyed in the recent past, such as NSYNC and
Oh, yeah.
Backstreet Boys.
Oh, yeah.
And more recently, you would say One Direction, maybe.
Okay.
And those groups took off and hit it big with the fans at the time. But I'm certain the draw of these newer boy bands was no doubt fueled by the past success and nostalgia that stemmed from the New Kids on the Block.
That's right. And then what we said earlier, that their success was mirrored off of New Editions. So it's kind of a full circle effect with these trends.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, there's so much more backstory and even projects and updates that the guys have gone through over the years. The many ups and downs, both personal and professional, all throughout the career. Too much to really go over this week. I mean, there's so much. But regrettably, we're officially at the end of our designated decade parameters for the New Kids on the Block as well.
Facts. But one more thing we'd like to mention before we wrap up our fascinating discussion on the New Kids on the Block. And it is this. We spoke of how the New Kids, aka NKOTB, briefly split up and took a hiatus in 94.
Yeah.
Well, all was not lost when it came to the guys performing together once again. For you'll be happy to know that the New Kids on the Block, or NKOTB, reunited once again in 2008 to surprise their diehard fans with a brand new album entitled, appropriately enough, The Block.
Ah,
Yeah, which launched them back into touring and making music together.
okay.
Fun fact. Talk about their diehard fans. Did you know that the group referred to these ones as blockheads? How romantic.
I think that's where we belong, Coop.
Now, this is awesome, right?
Yes.
All in good nature, fun, love.
Oh my goodness. This week's Orchard Trek Retro was such a nostalgic blast from the past. The memories and mania of what the New Kids on the Block really stood for easily reminds us through their melodic music all about the endless joys of being young. They even referred this fact in one of their recent cuts, Bring Back the Time, that's the name of the song, citing that the heart never changes. And inside, we're still the same kids. We're back in 89. So bring back the time. We still got the magic. There's nothing that can take away this feeling we have tonight.
Ah, well said, guys.
Yeah, yeah.
The New Kids on the Block offer the world wonderful nostalgic memories of the past, of better times when things were carefree. Oh, how we yearn to return to that time. But through their awesome music and legacy, we can always go back and all be the same youth we were back in the late 80s.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you, Danny, Donnie, Joey, Jonathan, and Jordan, for all the wonderful memories. So stop the press just before we go. I cannot believe we did not ask each other this. but our listeners must know, who is your favorite, Kennard?
I would have to say that my favorite is Joey McIntyre.
Oh, yes. Yeah. He had a
For
lot going on for him, didn't he?
Yeah, and seriously, their first song that we heard hit the airwaves was him singing "Please Don't Go, Girl." It was just like mesmerizing.
Yes, yes. And
And
I think you
he's
had a couple posters of him, didn't you? You had
I
at least,
did.
yeah. And these are huge posters. Like, they were good size.
Yes. You know what? It actually, Coop, I saw on social media recently, like a couple weeks ago. Somebody had that poster posted on there.
What?
I was like, and it just brought it back. I was like, there it is.
Oh no, that's so cool.
Yeah. Yeah. How about you?
Oh well, well, it was Jordan. It was Jordan. He had that grin. It was like, woo, yeah.
Yes. And the Batman shirt.
Yes. That just, it made him more endearing, I have to say.
Yeah, but he really did have some pipes on him, didn't
He
he?
did. Yes. Yes.
What do they
He was
call them?
singing to me the whole time. I'm sorry, ladies. Now you know.
In his high falsetto. Good choice, Coop.
It was so crazy.
Yeah. So, what about you, Orchard Archivers? Gen Xer buffs. Who is your favorite New Kids on the Block? Weigh in.
Yes. And for this, we'll be loving you forever. Love what you heard on this week's episode? Well, the answer is simple. To tune into future tracks and to the Orchard Archives, meet up with us here next week, same time, same place at the Sweet Spot. And it would mean the world to us if you could leave us a shining review and feedback. Spreading the word really is the best way to grow our podcast and explore more iconic memories. Thank you.